Okay, what's up everybody? Today I want to update everybody about my whole reading that's going on or whatever. Like if I'm reaching my goal or not, which is 80 books for this year. Now, I'm doing pretty well actually. I think I'm at 44 books at the moment. And it's July 28th or something. And I'm pretty much on it. The thing is, I just need to keep reading around 6.5 books per month or whatever, and I should reach my limit. And really quick, if you want a tip on how to read more, honestly, I don't know. I've seen a good amount of those videos, and let me just say the best tip is exactly kind of what you expect, and that's just to read more. I didn't get faster at reading, but I put more time into it, and so I read about 80 to 100 pages per day, or at least I try to be up those numbers. Sometimes I'll just read 50 or 60. Sometimes I wouldn't be able to read it any pages, but as long as you put the time into it, eventually you kind of get there. And here I have a list of the books that I like the most so far. And I'm just gonna talk about 7 books. Just because I don't want the video to be too long or anything. So let's get down to it. You've probably seen some of these books on the thumbnail, and I hope you're excited to at least hear what I have to say about them or anything like that. So the first one that I want to talk about is Handmaid's Tale. So one thing, just by looking at my notes, is I love the female perspective of the novel. I am a feminist. I am this is the thing I care about. In this novel, you're really able to kind of see what form of oppression is taking place when it's specifically targeted at women, and I think that's just amazing. I never really noticed that until I don't know. I watched some video about it. Probably what video was it? Anyways, I watched some video on it, and they made a point where it's she noticed that the author, she noticed that these type of dystopian kind of novels are mostly written from the male perspective. I didn't really notice that until she said that, and I could see the value in this different perspective. There's just so much nuance going on, and you can big time see the significance of this novel right now, right? At least in the United States, where it's, depending on what state you live, it's difficult to get abortion. And it's a fascinating read. It's easy to read because there's a simplicity in the writing, but it's even easier to enjoy because the overall story is just fascinating, and I loved it so much. Let's see. Oh, and the other one that I really want to talk about, and this is a pretty popular one, but I was kind of pushing it aside for a long time. And I don't know why. I think because it was 400 something pages. From that seems a lot. And it's Thinking Fast and Slow. Easily, something about, I think it's just psychology in general, where you could see the implications almost immediately. It means so much, not just within the domain that it's talking about, but it could just spread on to so many different other things. And this book is definitely like that, and it is brilliant. One thing that I specifically liked, I think they talked about, I'm not gonna quote them, I'm gonna paraphrase and I'll probably get it wrong, but you should get the gist of what I'm saying, is that they noticed that the memory of an event is really determined by the way it ends, right? I think they used the example of a symphony, right? Or something like that. And at the end, they'll play a wrong note on purpose, and most people would remember the whole symphony as going badly, even though the only thing that happened was right at the end. And something about that is just fascinating. I mean, that obviously connects to not just symphonies, but any form of art, right? For me specifically, I care about fiction, right? And when I write my own stuff, that is something to consider. If I don't do the ending right, if I mess it up, if I just don't have something memorable or something that just feels off, then I kind of ruined the book. That's not to say that it is a bad book or a bad short story, whatever it is, but most people will probably perceive it that way, and that matters to me, obviously, right? Even then, like, it's one of those books that what I like about it is that it definitely, I think it focuses on the economy and some other thing. I forget the other thing that they focus on, but they really limit the implications of their book, and that's probably just to save time, right? Like, they can't, like, you know, they could probably write their whole lives talking about the implications of this kind of research or whatever, but they're obviously not going to do that. Either way, it's just a great book, very informative, very smart, and I loved it so much. And the other one, I think I had this one, I just didn't grab it. Nah, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Does it? Nah, I'll put it on the screen, who cares? So, Fashionable Nonsense. Such a good book. Mostly because I think I learned a lot from it, right? Not in the sense of like, oh, I got like a lot of information. I feel like, you know, Thinking Fast and Slow did that. But I learned as a writer, in a sense that they were really good at pinpointing their level of expertise and making sure that that kind of directed their criticism of all these various claims and like sociology and stuff. And I think that's just brilliant. I really do think it should be like a case study for people who are learning how to write, especially when you're trying to like move on to more academic writing, because the way they do it is just smart. Like, they know that, okay, they don't study sociology, that's not their thing, but what they do know is how formulas work in mathematics and all these other like complicated theories and stuff. And so what they do to criticize other writings of like I forget who they criticize exactly. They criticize like so many. I think they criticize Derrida at some point, just because they have all these complicated formulas within their writing, and it's like you can't tell if they're being geniuses or if they're just kind of like saying nonsense. And in this book, they really like, no, it's nonsense. And they do that, not looking at the conclusions that they're making, but at how they arrive to the conclusions using the various mathematical equations and stuff, right? And they can see how like, oh, you're not even using it correctly. Like, so how could your conclusion be correct? And I think that's a brilliant take on just, it just makes so much sense to do that. Like, if it is going to create their argument, then it better be done well, right? It just has to be. And they kind of expose them for the fact that they don't know what the hell they're talking about, and I love that so much. The other book that I really like, this book I loved a lot, by the way. Those Killing Rage, Ending Racism by Bell Hooks. I don't know. Like, the thing is about this book is that it's surprisingly nuanced. Like it says in the back right here that it says Bell Hooks has always maintained that eradicating racism and eradicating sexism must go hand in hand. And I feel like that's really is like what I liked about the book so much. I'm just gonna quote like a passage and you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. Like, it's just so smart. Once that struggle was perceived as one, that is, that black people have gained equal rights, then one assertion of our new freedom was to make mainstream socialization about gender roles the norm in black life. In the age of integration, black men asserted masculinist subjectivity, not by vigilantly challenging white supremacy, but by first insisting on the subordination of women, particularly black women. Suddenly, black men who would never have access to jobs within this capitalist framework that would allow them to provide for families could still feel themselves to be men. Manhood had been redefined. Manhood was not providing and protecting, it was provided by one's capacity to coerce, control, dominate. I don't know, that's just brilliant. Like, come on. Like, it makes it very clear that she's able to see how they intersect, right? Like, you really do have to do something about both in order for there to be an overall resolution that can equate to equality, that could generate peace among all of us, right? And it is, yeah, I mean, she has a whole bunch of passages like that throughout the book, and it's really good. And another one I really liked, Clockwork Orange. It's a weird book and movie, to be honest. But one thing, and I'm just gonna spoil it. Like, if you haven't read it or seen the movie, then I guess you can skip this part. But the thing is, in the movie, right, what happens at the end is he reverts back to who he was, right? Like, he is now, again, this guy who, like, you know, really is like he's kind of like an animal, right? Like, they really just signify that he's like, what's the word? I don't know the right word to use, but he just reverts back to like this kind of awful person, you know. And that's where it ends. And Clockwork Orange in the book, that's not where it ends. It actually keeps going, which kind of surprised me, because I could very easily see that as the ending. But what happens in the book is that he grows up and he realizes, oh, I don't want to be like this anymore, right? Like, that's kind of just, it clicks to him. And now that it was such a different ending, but it does point to the same theme as, like, the theme being, it is useless to try to reform somebody. But I think there's a big difference. Is that in the movie, it signals that it's useless because no matter what, people will be as bad as they are going to be. In the book, however, it's much more positive. Like, you just sort of reach an age where you realize this isn't for me, and you're able to become a better person on your own. There's a lot of different ways you could discuss that, but that is definitely like a difference that I think is one that matters, and we could like definitely look into it way more. Like, it's yeah, I don't know. I like the book more, to be honest, and just for that thematic difference, just because I do think that there is a problem culturally where we associate what is negative with what is true so often, to a point that that's just the association that we think is definitive. Like, and it bothers me. It's something that I've noticed for a long time, and I don't know. I don't like that the movie kind of goes on with that sort of way of looking at it. Another book that I really liked was Anna Karenina. I mean, oh my god, like, he's literally just, Tolstoy is just too brilliant not to love. Like, it's just, he's so good, and he is one of the few writers that I like very specifically envy. He is just brilliant. And I'm gonna spoil that one a little bit too. Like, this happens around page 400. So I'm gonna spoil like a good part. Like, if you haven't really read that one, then yeah, you're gonna be upset. But whatever. I really do think it's important to quote the passage, just because I don't know, me talking about it isn't the same as you just seeing the passage and actually just enjoying it for yourself. It's just brilliant writing. And basically, there's a part where, and this is where I'm gonna spoil it. There's a part where, like, what's his name, Levin or whatever, has like given up on Kitty. He's like, okay, is she rejected me? This is it. Let me live like a new, different life and go on this new path, right? But the thing is, he sees her again, right? And then that becomes like a whole thing. It's pretty beautiful. I wrote it down just because I love this so much. And plus because I think there is some value in like copying passages. Like, you're able to see what they did a little bit more precisely, if that makes sense. Whatever, I wrote it down. He could not be mistaken. There were no other eyes like these in the world. There was only one creature in the world that could concentrate for him all the brightness and meaning of life. It was she. It was Kitty. And everything that had been stirring Levin during the sleepless night, all the resolutions he made, all vanished at once. He recalled with horror his dreams of marrying a peasant girl, there only in a carriage that had crossed over to the other side of the road and was rapidly disappearing. There only could find the solution of the riddle of his life, which had weighed so agonizingly upon him of late. Come on, like, come on. I don't know. I read that. I read that. Like, I was like, man, I'm never gonna write something like that. You know, it's just too. It was too good, man. I swear to God. And the other book that I really liked was this one, Tales from the 1001 Nights, or sometimes it's just called Arabian Nights. I don't know. I just don't read these types of books that often. Like I don't know. It's very rare that I will read something just for like pleasure, right? Or it's like, oh, it's just like a fun read. Like I try to like steer away from them. I don't know why. Like it's a bad habit that I've created. Like I've taken reading too seriously in some instances, you know. But this one is a classic, and it's just really, really good. Like it's just, there's so much that happens in it where it's like, oh, that's just, I don't even know right word for it. Like it's pretty dazzling, you know, in that there's just so many spectacles throughout the entire book, and it's just hard. I'm sad that I'm about to finish it. You know, I'm not finished it with yet, but I'm like only 20 pages away, and I don't know. I love this so much. Definitely one of my favorite like adventure-ish kind of books or whatever. It's brilliant. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I do have a lot of other books that I liked, but wow, I do not want this video to be that long. I'll probably put like a little list right here or somewhere. I don't know, whatever. So how's your reading going? Are you doing good? Or are you reading? Are you even trying? You know, or did you try and then did you fail? You know, are you on track to reach your goals? Or what books did you guys like this year that you read? Have a good one.